cannot really talk about the bright future for Israel with 100,000 missiles pointed at them from Hezbollah. You are delusional if you think that Israel will have a bright future with that. Israel cannot even crush militarily Hezbollah. They tried in 2006, whether we like it or not, they failed, or maybe they were not aggressive enough to finish them. So we have a major threat there. Iran is only being empowered. I will talk about the economy, but this is very important to get there. You cannot just talk about the economy while discounting this factor.
Yes. Let me ask you this, though, Ziad. As someone who visited Israel, I found that I would generalize. I want to put Jews into two boxes, the Jerusalem Jew and the Tel Aviv Jew. The Tel Aviv Jews tended to be the entrepreneurs, and they shared I think an entrepreneur is a cosmopolitan person. Yeah. And I think to the extent that economics relates, the problems that you cite, of course, are problems that entrepreneurs recognize.
Sure.
Because obviously the death of entrepreneurship, the death of business is warfare.
Absolutely.
And so it's a positive contribution. But I appreciate your suggestion. I want to go to the rabbi, the guy in the yarmulke who is a Jew.
There is no incarceration in a biblical judicial system. Yeah. Everything is resolved economically. And it is through that lens that I believe the
Excuse me.
Just a moment. I have to go to Michael Medved. He has not yet been heard from. I just want to briefly comment.
1 second.
Give it to me.
1 second.
Yes,
if you want to have a debate, you have to give equal time for everyone.
Well, excuse me.
This guy took twice his time and my time.
Nobody resents that.
If not, it's not a debate. It's not a speech. We don't need speech. I'm not here for speeches, to hear speeches.
Thank you very much for your contribution. I just want to briefly comment to you, Rabbi, that very possibly George Gilder did write an uplifting vision, that an alternative
speeches here.
Ziad, thank you. Ziad, please, you're slowing us down with these comments if you don't want speeches. George Gilder did write, I think, a good response to your point that there is a secular vision. George is probably a religious guy, but he wrote a creed for us agnostics to live by. Michael Medved, we haven't heard from you yet. And okay, Ziad, I want to get to you in a moment. You see, the consensus on the floor on the stage is a certain amount of optimism about Israel, certainly from the two guys sitting on the wing chairs, George and Michael. I know Ziad has a certain issue with politics of Israel and the military issues being so dominant. Although I guess you would agree, Ziad, that at least to the extent that there are entrepreneurs, they're probably cosmopolitan, probably open to your issues and your arguments, unlike those who are entrenched. Perhaps you'd agree with that. Rabbi, you're a little bit less optimistic than I think George and Michael. Would that be correct? Yes. Of course. Thank you. Yes, I was about to get to Ziad. Sure.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was about to get to Ziad. Yeah.
Let's cut the bullshit.
Ziad, please sit.
No. Let's cut the bullshit. I would like to stand up
and
sit.
Ziad, could you sit?
I want to stand up and sit.
Okay.
Unless you want me to go out there. I do what I want to do. I want to stand up. I'm not bothering anyone.
Okay, sure.
So let's cut the bullshit. We have here 3 academics, philosophers, professors, talking about Israel and the future of Israel. I'm an entrepreneur. I built billion-dollar businesses, been traveling in the Middle East and Israel for 30 years, in business, in the trenches. So if somebody knows what he's talking about business in the Middle East and in Israel, it's me, with all humbleness, because I'm in the trenches. I'm in the trenches. I'm not talking from academia, number one. Number two, I'm optimistic for Israel. You know, I am very sympathetic to Israel. I'm Christian. We are a minority in Lebanon like in Israel. However, we have to be aware of the problem out there, which we're trying to put under the rug, that this is okay. It's not okay. Israel has an existential problem, which I'm trying to address, and everybody wants to put under the rug and give itself a pat in the back. Everything is great. We have all these Jewish geniuses. We have all this Israeli genius. It is, but you know what? It's not enough. Because I know what's happening. I used to work with intelligence. I know what's happening in Israel, in the US, in the Middle East. There are big problems we have to face. We have to work with the US administration in curbing, talking about politics, I'm not talking about politics. Business in the Middle East is about politics. You cannot do real business, high-level, high-stakes business, without talking about politics. If not, you are delusional. You're a professor in academia giving theories. It's about politics, with all due respect, Gene. We have to work with the US administration in curbing the Iranian regime, in curbing, in curbing terrorism, in curbing all this stuff in a major way. Whether you are a socialist, a leftist, a libertarian, a right-wing guy, I am super right-wing, I tell you from now, okay? We have to crush them, literally, because the only language they understand is power. It's money and power. Stop telling me about socialism, kibbutz, theories, philosophies. This is all in the past. This is a new world. You have 300 million horny people who really want the destruction of Israel. What do you do about it? How do you deal with it? How do you outsmart them? This is the solution I'm trying to bring about. I'm as concerned as Israel, as any country, any democracy in the Middle East, starting with Lebanon. So the talk is not only about Israel. Israel is not anymore, Gene, an island by itself. It's now part of the whole Middle East. So you cannot anymore, like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, talk about just Israel. Israel is not an island. It's very connected to 300 million enemies around Israel. How do you deal with it? How do you bring them on board? Now, regarding the direction, socialism or capitalism, Israel will become a very capitalistic society if it's able, with the US, to draw their enemies, their neighbors, on board. If they can't, forget about it. Well, it's a different ball game. This is the discussion we have to have, not socialism or kibbutz or philosophy. Well, that's not a discussion.
I think if I can respond. I think politics is very relevant. I want to line up for questions, please. And I completely agree that obviously the politics is very relevant. The topic was basically socialism and capitalism. But I think you made a good contribution yet, and there might be questions for you. Anybody have questions, please line up behind the mic or a statement. Do I see anybody getting to the mic? I do see somebody walking to the mic over there.
Yeah, if I could respond, if I could just.
Okay, yes, indeed. Excuse me. Slow down, please. I want people to get up their questions. Michael, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do, just very quickly. Ziad, I don't think there's any disagreement with what you're saying, and there never, ever has been.
Michael. We're talking about different topics. I agree with you. But
I understand. You want to raise a different topic, and of course that is the most important topic, but one of the things that I learned from George Gilder, and from all of his books, which is that economics can shape peace. If people are too busy making money and raising a lifestyle, that's probably the way. Why does Israel right now have an exemplary? Why does Israel have?
It's power. They want
power.
Money
is power.
Not economics.
Guys,
Ziad, please let me answer.
Hold on.
Please.
Hold on. There is economic power.
We have a question from the audience.
Fine.
Make your statement.
Just to finish the point that I was trying to make to Ziad, right?
You want to make a statement? Please make 30 seconds. Make your statement. What do you want to say?
There is economic power.
Yeah.
I agree with what Michael is saying, but there's also another kind of power emerging today. That's not economic power. That's power. That's power by force to acquire certain things, not necessarily economically, because driven by ideology, ideological power, not economic power. Two different kinds of power.
Two different kinds of power.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. I see a question over there.
Okay.
Please, guys, sit down, please. We want to give it to the audience to ask a question, please.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Israel's an amazing country with the U.S., what they're doing.
So who's asking the question? Could you stand up, please?
Yes.
See it, please.
I'm sorry.
Please, I am moderating. Please, could you sit down? Thank you. This is a great bunch of guys.
And what's necessary is fortitude, consistency, and a willingness to make peace, which there is, and expressed by this government and every Israeli government, to make peace with any interlocutor representing Arab states or the Palestinians, who is willing to live side by side and to accept the existence of a Jewish state in the Middle East.
I think I see Ziad shaking his head, so shake it some more, Ziad.
Look, guys, this kind of narrative has been going on for 50 years. Peace, stability, my brother the Palestinian, my brother the Israeli, doesn't work. Does not work. There's a difference between the secular power, Russia, US, Iraq, etc., and the religious ideological power, which is extremely dangerous. The way you deal with religious ideological power, there's no logic. They are very unpredictable. You don't know what's going to be their next move. They are absolutely ruthless. There's no logic. You cannot find an enemy logically that doesn't use logic. That's what's happening. You cannot compare them. Today it's totally, believe me, listen, I know the area. I've been there a lot with all kinds of people. There is really a lot of danger. We are pretty much discounting it.
Well,
that's a very good question. I was gonna, this needs a debate by itself. This needs a debate by itself, but obviously they're not willing to discuss this. We're not talking about this. We could have started this half an hour ago. What do I propose? Well, number one, you really have to, look, the major problem there is Russia. The axis is Russia, Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas. That's the axis. You have to break the axis by one way or another. Break it 1 time, 2 times, 50 times. You start with Russia. I'm not against discussing this stuff with Putin, like all the neocons that go Putin, Russia, Russia, Russia. That's not good. That's not good. It starts with Russia, because Russia is the head of the snake. You deal with Russia, you deal with all the others. That's what, I'm not proposing to go and bomb everyone. I'm not proposing to go and bomb everyone. This is not a solution. It didn't work, it's not going to work. You don't convince people by force. They're going to come back again and again. You kill their leader, they have 2 more leaders.
I want you to talk to Ziad afterwards. Of course, that was only a 1-minute version of what Ziad proposes. So I'm afraid we're running out of time. Ziad, you want to favor us with our last 30 seconds of time with your final pronouncement. Ziad, take it away.
Ziad, I'm going to talk for a minute, because you were in Nassau and you spoke a lot. You've spoken here.
I'm sorry?
My problem is that the focus here in this discussion is wrong. The creation of Israel created a number of problems. The absence of holding of land by the Palestinians within Israel is a major problem there. And
this is, excuse me, this is totally irrelevant to the subject matter, the creation of the state of Israel.
But it does.
We're not talking about this. If you don't like it, get used to it. If you don't like it, get used to it. If you don't like it, get used to it. Life is not fair, get used to it.
It has a bearing on society.
And I want to end on the Jewish discussion is always raucous. We had a good raucous time of it. We shared some pretty good ideas. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you especially to Ziad for the provocation.